Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Appreciate you hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Quick reminder here as we start the second hour. I will be out at Court at the Table tonight, 8 o'clock, sports trivia. So we'll have LSU in South Carolina, at least the conclusion of that, on as we start trivia. And there'll be lots of great food, lots of great drink, an opportunity to come on by and win some gift cards. Always supports you going out and watching the Tigers play if you're not planning on doing that tonight, but want to come eat some dinner, have a couple drinks, play sports trivia, win some gift cards, and maybe some free pickleball. You can do that over at Court at the Table tonight at 8 o'clock for sports trivia. We will be in action tonight, even with hoops. We'll talk some college football playoff with Denton Day coming up in 15 minutes. Denton, we moved some things around yesterday, but fired up he can be with us today to talk about the college football playoff semis that come up Thursday and Friday of this week. We start hour 2 with some basketball. LSU in South Carolina tonight. One of my pet peeves in sports, y'all probably know by now, the term must win. People throw it around like you're giving out candy on Halloween. Must win this, must win. No, it's not must win unless it's must win. And tonight is not a must win for LSU. They have 16 more league games to play if they lose tonight.
Hunt, can I interest you in something real quick? You know you said...
Depends on what it is.
Oh, no, it is. It's good. Because you know you said you don't like the term must win.
Hate it.
How about it the term, it's a can't lose. It's not a must win. But you
No, they
can't
can lose. They can lose.
So they can lose.
It's just if you lose, you're in trouble.
Okay.
Like you're in trouble if you lose. Because if you can't win on your home floor against South Carolina,
you're in trouble, yeah.
That sets an awful precedent for the next 16. And I get it. You're playing without your best player. And that is a tough blow. And it might have cost you the game on Saturday. You can make a very, very compelling case it cost LSU the game on Saturday. Will we ever know? No. You can make a compelling case. But South Carolina is probably the worst team in the league. Not definitely, but probably. The Gamecocks have played 5 Power 5 conference games. 5 of them. They are 0-5. They lost to Butler by 7. They lost to Northwestern by 2. They lost to Virginia Tech in overtime. They lost at Clemson by 7, and Vanderbilt beat them by 12 on Saturday in Columbia in a game Vanderbilt absolutely controlled from start to finish. They're not getting blown out in these Power 5 games. They're not a terrible team, but they don't win any of them. And you're talking about a team that's 9-5 overall. They're not awful on paper, but they're not very good. And this is on your home floor. And as we talked about on Friday of last week, entering the A&M game, you needed to get one of those first 2 because you got Vanderbilt coming up, and that's just going to be a very difficult game to win. Vanderbilt looks like a wagon right now. Then you got Kentucky, who is not playing great, but they still got a lot of talent. And then right around the corner, Florida and Arkansas are coming on the road, and they're 2 of the most talented teams in the league too. It can snowball on you, and you don't want that to happen. Tonight is a game LSU needs to go out and take control of. Now, what about this South Carolina team? They've started 9 different guys this year. 9 guys. And they play 11 pretty consistently. The point guard battle is fascinating tonight because what you've got here is Meechie Johnson against Jalen Reese. Meechie Johnson came out of high school and went to Ohio State. He played at Ohio State for 2 years. Then he transferred to South Carolina, and he played at South Carolina for 2 years. Then he transferred back to Ohio State for his 5th year, got hurt. Now he's back at South Carolina for his 6th year. So he's only played at Ohio State and South Carolina, but he's transferred 3 different times. He's a 6th-year senior, and Jalen Reese is a true freshman. So you've got a 6th-year player at point guard for South Carolina and a true freshman for LSU. This is a key matchup in this game. Now, I thought Jalen Reese handled himself really nicely for about 30 minutes on Saturday. And I know that the turnovers at the end of the game will cause a lot of LSU fans to go, well, this guy's not ready. He cost us the game, and you would get upset about that. And I watched it too. I don't like the late turnovers. It swallowed him up a little bit. But he also had 7 assists previous to that. He also was hitting Mike Nwoku on pick and rolls and was penetrating a little bit against a pesky A&M defense and did some really good things when thrust into duty due to an injury. Now he's facing a sixth-year senior, and you need him to play well. Jalen Reese is not going to make 4 threes tonight. He's probably not going to make any threes tonight. But he needs to run the show, don't turn the ball over, and get your team into the offensive sets that Coach McMahon calls. Now, the good news is that South Carolina is not disruptive defensively. They are 314th in the country in steals. 314th. That is way down towards the bottom. They're 319th in blocks. So these statistics are telling me they're not very disruptive on the defensive side. So you've got to take care of the basketball and get the ball where it needs to be. Now, for LSU offensively, Mike Nwoku has been consistent all year. When he's on the floor, he's shooting 70%. He's good for 18 to 20 points. He's been fantastic. He's been fantastic against the bad teams LSU's played. He's been fantastic against most of the good teams LSU's played. He's got to stay on the floor, stay out of foul trouble, but he's been very, very good, and I expect that he will be tonight. Max McKinnon, after a really rough go against Texas Tech, where he couldn't throw it in the ocean, has been great. He went nuts against SMU. He played well against Southern Miss. He was really good against Texas A&M, I thought. Max McKinnon's been very good. So those two guys you can count on. But you need more than just those two guys if De'Don Thomas is not out there. And De'Don Thomas is not going to be out there. So you need Markel Sutton to be better than he's been the last 2 games. He's 3 for 14 from the floor, and he's missed his last 9 3-point attempts over 3 games. I don't need him chucking a lot of threes, but he's got to score more than that. LSU counted on him for double figures in 8 of their first 12 games. In the last 2 games, he's had 9 and 3. He had 3 in College Station. With nothing from De'Don Thomas and 3 from Markel Sutton, it's going to be really hard for LSU to generate enough offense. Now, Nwoku and McKinnon gave you a lot, and you got some more from some other guys that you maybe didn't expect, but you need something from Markel Sutton. He's got to score 12 or 13 points tonight. He's got to make one of those threes. He's got to get to the rim and finish. Nwoku and McKinnon can't do it all, and Reese is not going to be able to shoot, so you got to have something. PJ Carter can give you something shooting the basketball. That would be good. But I'm looking at Markel Sutton. I need more. Now, one of the stats I thought was fascinating in this game when looking at both teams is the free throw line. LSU's been one of the best and most productive free throw shooting teams in college basketball this year. A lot of that's due to their schedule, not being able to guard them, but they've done a great job of getting to the line and making them. South Carolina is 6th in the country in free throw make percentage. They're 79.4%, almost 80%. So if this game gets tight late, the team that's got the lead has got a really good chance to salt it away because they're very good from the charity stripe. But make no mistake. I am adamant about overemphasizing individual games early in seasons. You're going to hear me dismiss early baseball losses, dismiss a baseball series loss here and there. Like, football gets a little bit more interesting because you lose your margin of error pretty quickly. But LSU has created some margin for error with their non-conference going 12-1. You've created some margin for error. And a loss at Texas A&M right now is quad 1. That's not going to hurt you losing a road game without your point guard. So I'm not here to overemphasize games. This one I am emphasizing properly. You need to win this game. South Carolina is not good. You're a 7.5-point favorite. I know you don't have your best player. I get it. You're in front of your home crowd. You got to come home, play with energy. Don't turn the ball over. Knock down some shots. Defend. It's not a good South Carolina team. Win the game. I don't care if they win it by 1 point. You do not have De'Don Thomas. If LSU had De'Don Thomas in this game, they'd be a 9-point favorite, 10-point favorite. Like, they're better than this team. I have not one time since they started this thing the first week in November suggested LSU was a top 5, top 7 SEC team. Not once. And I still don't. But they're pretty good. I think they're a middle-of-the-pack team at full strength. They're not at full strength tonight. They're better than South Carolina anyway. You have to win this game on your home floor. If you don't, I will come here tomorrow and suggest that we are a ticking time bomb. Not an exploded time bomb, a ticking time bomb. It's that important. It's just based on the schedule. Because I don't think LSU is equipped to recover from 1-5 or 1-6. I just don't. And unless you're going to go beat Kentucky at home or you're going to go on the road and beat Arkansas, like I'm struggling to get beyond 1-2-6, and you're just not built for that. Get this one. Get this one. Get this one. Get this one. You got to get De'Don Thomas healthy. We'll see if Matt McMahon gives an update tonight. The feeling is that it's not one that's going to last 3 weeks, but maybe 2. You might have to play another game or 2 without him. But once he gets back, he should be ready to go. You need Jalen Reese to play well tonight, win the ball game. 6 o'clock, you can listen on our sister station, Eagle 98.1 at 5:30. It'll be Chris Blair and the voice of the Tigers and John Brady on the call. And I believe ESPNU is where you can watch. My preview of this game is up on LouisianaSports.net for free. Let's talk some football, college football playoff. Plus, what's the national thought on LSU and Lane Kiffin right now? We'll talk to Denton Day about it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Started under new ownership there on October the 1st. Fabry family's been here for 3.5 decades. You know what you're going to get. Quality customer service, a pleasant experience, and then service after that sale. They've got an incredible service department over there, and you don't have to buy a Chevy or GMC from Fabry Chevrolet GMC to go have your car serviced there. If you're in the St. Francisville area and you've got an issue with your vehicle, they will service all makes in the service department. So stop on by, see them. They're happy to help. But if you're looking to buy a new vehicle, buy a pre-owned vehicle here in the Q1 of 2026, you can do it at Fabry Chevrolet. The entire inventory is online at FabryChevrolet.com. They've got all your Chevys, all your GMCs, whether you're looking for a Sierra, Yukon, Denali, maybe you want a truck, Chevy Silverado. You can do that over at Fabry Chevrolet. Check them out online, FabryChevrolet.com, FabryChevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Time to talk some college football playoff. We'll do that with our guy Denton Day, college football overtime, Sirius XM. It's usual stuff on Mondays. A little shuffle of the schedule. Good enough to give us some time on a Tuesday. Denton, how we doing?
Hunt, what's up, man? We're just a day closer to the college football playoffs. So everything's well.
We certainly are. All right. I want to talk LSU briefly before we get to the college football playoff. I'm getting the sense, just based on tweets nationally and whatever, that LSU is kind of going to have to be the villain here, that Lane's the villain, that LSU is going to be the villain. We lived this with Will Wade on the basketball side of things. It's not anything new, but are you sensing nationally that Ole Miss is the darling here based on what they've quote unquote gone through, and that LSU is going to have to kind of wear this label for a little bit?
Yeah, probably. But I mean, look, this is not the first time that Lane has been in this projected villain role. And literally all it takes is like 4 tweets where people think he's funny and he gets on the right side again. I mean, he really does have a knack for swinging the narrative based off of how people feel about him. So maybe it lasts the entire season, but odds are that someone else is going to come and do something far worse than what Lane did to Ole Miss, and they will then assume the role of villain.
We'll see. All right, let's talk about the games we saw. I want to talk Georgia-Ole Miss first. What did you learn in that one?
I learned that I was wrong about Gunnar Stockton. You know, I had kind of turned a corner on him because I thought he had turned a corner. And I said, oh, wow, you know, this Gunnar Stockton kid can play a little bit. Not that he was like a Stetson Bennett or any of the other quarterbacks that Georgia had recently, but I thought he could play a little bit. And to see Kirby Smart kind of get out-coached in the fourth quarter, and, you know, he was losing his mind on the sideline. And generally speaking, when Kirby is losing his mind, it's not a good thing. When he's a stone-cold killer and not losing his mind, which is what happened the first time these two teams played, that's when he's at his best. When he starts to lose it a little bit, I think Georgia they take on that personality, and then they lose it a little bit. So I was really stunned the way that Pete Golding and Ole Miss handled the fourth quarter, and how Gunnar Stockton didn't look great in the second half, and just Georgia as a team didn't seem prepared for Ole Miss to even be remotely in the game in the fourth quarter, let alone in a position to win.
What do you make of Georgia's program where it is right now? They were, you know, the next Saban, Alabama, as not too long ago, and now it's been a few years since they hoisted any hardware. Yeah,
this is the crashing down reality that I don't know that there's ever going to be a next Alabama. What Nick Saban did was insane, and that's not supposed to happen. What we're seeing now in college football is the way that this sport is supposed to work, which is in any given year, anybody can win a championship. Now, you'll always be positioned in a better spot if you're Georgia, and I don't think that will ever change with Kirby, but they're not the team that Alabama was, where they could just consistently get the top-end quarterback, get the top-end offensive players, get the top-end defensive players. They're competing with everybody else. I think NIL has leveled the playing field a little bit with that, so they'll always be in positions to win championships, but you're not just going to cakewalk the way that it felt like in certain years Alabama was.
And let's talk about I guess I'm losing track of when we last spoke. Have we talked since Alabama and Indiana played?
We have not.
All right, well, let's talk. Yeah, because that was right before. Okay, yeah. Tell me your thoughts on that.
I mean, so I knew Indiana was going to win. If you thought that Alabama, after being a really iffy at best Oklahoma team, was going to then stand up to Indiana, you just maybe weren't watching Indiana, or in fairness, maybe you thought that this bye situation was a really big deal. And outside of Indiana, it's proven to be a really big deal. But look, man, Kirk Cignetti is a madman. Like he is the perfect kind of crazy that you want as a head coach at a program like Indiana. They just do everything well. At a really high level, they play defense. They got that Heisman quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. They don't have necessarily superstars on offense, but they have really good players on offense on the outside. And Alabama just got the benefit of, in their win against Oklahoma, a couple of special teams, mistakes by Oklahoma, and they played a quarterback that was not very trustworthy when it came to throwing the ball. Fernando Mendoza obviously was. Indiana's a juggernaut. I think whoever wins the matchup between them and Oregon is going to win the national championship. I just don't know how you can stop a team that's as good as Indiana is in all three phases.
Well, let's talk about those two games then, because they're coming up on Thursday and Friday. We'll stick with Indiana and Oregon. We've seen it in Eugene. What needs to change for the Ducks to win this time around?
I think they can't make the mistakes that they did, which is obviously easier said than done. They're going to ask a lot of Dante Moore, and I think he's more equipped to handle the load that they're going to put on his shoulders now than he was at the beginning of the season. But they're going to have to play mistake-free football. If there's one thing that we've learned from watching Indiana this year, you can't make mistakes against them. They don't make mistakes. I think that's probably the biggest luxury that Kurt Cignetti brings with the program, is that they don't have superstars at a lot of the positions, but they're not making mistakes. I think Oregon is equipped to handle it, especially as they continue to get more healthy on the outside, because they got a lot of weapons on the outside. I like Oregon a lot. I think Dante Moore is a really, really great quarterback. It's just going to come down to his decision-making, and then can he make some of the big throws that he did not make in that first matchup.
And then you move down to the Fiesta Bowl. Ole Miss and Miami, Rebs still rolling, and I think that win in the Sugar Bowl really kind of derailed some of LSU's efforts with getting some people from Oxford to Baton Rouge. That pipeline seems to have dried up. But now the Rebs head to the Fiesta Bowl to try to get a berth in a national championship game. Do you think they beat Miami?
No, I don't. I don't think they can block up front. And that's not to say that their offensive line isn't good enough, but, I mean, Reuben Bain and friends, but it's really been a lot of Reuben Bain. He has been dominating. I mean, that's the biggest takeaway from Miami, is that their defense it's men amongst boys, and all Carson Beck has done is not screw it up, which is pretty much all that you want him to do. If it's going to be low-scoring games and he just has to make one or two big throws, and they run the ball really well with Mark Fletcher, and you have Reuben Bain, who's getting multiple sacks a game, pressuring constantly, making special teams plays. I mean, he has really shown why people were so high on him at the beginning of the year. And I think the impact that he makes really elevates everybody else on that defensive line from Miami. And those are all good players, but you're seeing it with him. I mean, he's one of the best players on the field whenever he's on the field. And I don't know what Ole Miss's game plan is going to be to stop him, because we've seen Texas A&M could not stop him. Ohio State, who had one of the best offensive lines in Ryan Day, calling plays for him, although maybe they should have went back to Brian Hartline, but whatever. They couldn't stop him. Now, they've had offensive line issues, but if you can't block, you're going to be in a whole lot of trouble if you're Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss is fun, but it's not going to be fun if Reuben Bain is chasing him for his life throughout the course of the game.
One of the perceived weaknesses of Ole Miss's defense really all year has been the run defense at times. Do you think Miami finds success on the ground with Fletcher?
That should be their plan. If they're asking Carson Beck I'll say 27. I'll set the number at 27. If he's throwing the ball more than 27 times, odds are something's not going well for Miami. But if you hit that sweet spot of like 22 to 24 pass attempts for Carson Beck, and then you're hitting 22 carries for Mark Fletcher, you're going to win the football game because Fletcher is so good. And then again, at that point, you're just not having Carson Beck throw it. Literally, their biggest weakness, Miami, is his decision making because he struggles by trying to do a little too much at times. So I think if they can dominate in the run game against Ole Miss, then it's going to be a very, very long evening for the Rebels. But this is why we play the game, because I would have said the same thing about Georgia, and then in the second half, it felt like Ole Miss was punking them.
It did. Certainly was. I was in the building that night. It was an impressive effort by the Rebs against Georgia. All right, big picture here before we get you out of here. Your thoughts on the entire state of what's going on here, where you're having coaching staffs entertain 60 guys over the course of 2 weeks, and you got entire rosters in flux and guys negotiating to stay. And, what do you think of this month of college football?
It's madness. And, if you're into the madness, I think it's fun. I will tell you personally, I made the mistake this weekend I turned on some notifications for NACOS and transfer portal tracking account on Twitter, and let me tell you, my phone was dead by noon on all those days because it kept pinging, and there's so many different players, and you're getting reports that this player's interested in 4 different schools, and he's visiting this one and that one and this one. It's hard to keep track of, and I think a lot of it is there are some players that are popping up here. I like to think I'm pretty knowledgeable, Hunt, but there's some dudes that are popping up on these notifications, and I'm like, who is this?
Yeah.
I have not seen this person, and they're getting X amount of money. It's very new still. It's very hard to keep up with, but at the end of the day, it is kind of fun, and it at least gives them storylines in what is traditionally an NFL-dominated portion of the sports calendar. So I do think at the very least, if you just care about how the headlines are going and how the attention is being paid, that college football and the transfer portal, it gives people something to pay attention to. Maybe they'll eventually balance this thing out. The problem is if you don't get a collective bargaining agreement, we can't just pretend that these guys aren't pros for that much longer.
Yeah.
You have to get that. And once you get that situated, then you can adjust the calendar. But because they're technically students and you have to factor that in, it just becomes this jumbled mess where if you're not into the weeds for a certain program, it is literally like you're being sprayed with a fire hose.
It's wild, and we'll see what the results are as it all shakes out. LSU is going to be really, really busy. 2 more games before we have our national final set. We'll talk about it next week. Have a great week, Denton. Thanks, man.
Hunt, appreciate it as always, my friend. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. I've said this a couple times, and I'll reiterate. For my line of work, the transfer portal is incredible. It's content constant. Something new to talk about, some drama here, position of need here, position battle with this guy here, this school here. And so it's great for us. I'm fascinated when the baseball transfer portal opens up there in July, and I'm trying to see who LSU might grab and who's in the mix. And I'm fascinated by it. I am. But I can also stand on the other side of the fence and go, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous for LSU to have to conduct 80 negotiations over the course of 2 weeks. It's not breaking any laws, but it's just a wild concept that I just haven't quite put my finger on. If you're a junkie for it and you love the content and you love roster management and you loved recruiting and now this is taking the place of that, I get it. It just is wild, but we'll keep talking about it. And if you're like Denton and you can't keep up with all the things that are happening, go to LouisianaSports.net. We've got a tracker up on the homepage. It's got all the guys that have transferred out of LSU and where they're headed. It's got all the guys that are visiting that we've confirmed to LSU. It's got all the guys that LSU has got committed or signed on there as well. So you can kind of keep track throughout the day, and we keep it up. It's live. It's free. No pop-ups, no article limits. Or you can't just view it 5 times and then you got to pay us. It's free all the time. It's right there on LouisianaSports.net. So go check that out if you're looking to keep up with the madness during portal season. Talk some more portal when we come back on Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team. 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I told you yesterday, Brian Haldane from our talk station, Talk 107.3, Mornings with Brian Haldane, got his bathroom renovated by David Duvall, One Bath and Closets. He's thrilled with the result. And it was a big project. I saw Brian show me the pictures. It was gorgeous. It looks fantastic and says it's working great. It doesn't have to be expansive and transformative like that. It can be a little bit more quote unquote simple. If you've got an old bathtub that you don't use or a new bathtub that you don't use and you want to put a shower in, take that bathtub out, put a shower in that space. It's called a tub to shower conversion. And I've talked to the folks over at One Bath and Closets, David included, about this. It's like, yeah, usually 3 to 5 days. Depends on the scope, and they'll tell you, but 3 to 5 days, in and out. And it can transform your bathroom space, add value, and just make the bathroom a more enjoyable spot. It's One Bath and Closets. Get that free consultation there at the website, onebathandclosets.com. Realize that there is some opportunity for financing. 0% up to 18 months, same as cash. It's One Bath and Closets. Get that free consultation today at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Thanks to Denton Day for jumping aboard. Thanks to Sharif Ishak making a little bit of time earlier on today. Fast-moving show. This is just going to be a fast-moving month. I was talking to my wife as we prepared to leave the house yesterday morning, kind of start the year. Like, we had a day of work last Friday, but, like, does that really count? It's one day. You come back from a holiday, and you got a weekend coming. So, really, like, started the year, and she was like, oh, I don't know. You ready for, like, start the year? And I was like, my job kind of takes care of itself for the first 3 weeks in January, because I never have to think about, okay, what am I going to talk about today? Or, okay, what am I going to write about today? The transfer portal is just a phenomenon, and it just is a constant content churner. So yes, there's work involved with keeping up with that to an extent, but like, it just pops up on the docket. Here's what you got to do. And so you talk about the prospects who are visiting. You talk about the prospects who commit. You talk about their fit to the team. And like that's what I write about on my portal profiles. And that's what we talk about here on the show. And so for some housekeeping today, LSU has picked up commitments today from Ty Benefield, Boise State safety. He committed to LSU. Clemson defensive lineman Stephylan Green also committed to LSU. So those are the two from today. You add them into the commitments that LSU got previously. LSU got Trey Brown committed from Oklahoma, the wide receiver. Jackson Harris from Hawaii they pulled in as well. You also had Racine Guillory, the running back from Utah, they pulled in. So it's a steady flow coming in to LSU. And as I said in the first hour, I'm not going to back off that here. And keep in mind, I'm giving myself plenty of wiggle room here because I'm not a recruiting insider, and I don't claim to have some sort of source that's feeding me every bit of information for 100% fact. But I feel like it's reasonable to suggest that Sam Leavitt's going to join LSU's program today. It may not happen, and I realize there's wiggle room here. And you can say, well, you're just giving yourself wiggle room. You're trying to play. I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. I didn't say it was going to happen or it has happened. I think it's going to happen. I think Sam Leavitt will join today, and that'll be a big, big deal. And we'll talk about it as that happens today or if it happens later on this week. But we know that quarterback's number one on the list. Got to have a quarterback. Got to have a quarterback. You don't have any. It's the most important position on the field. But beyond that, got to have offensive line. Got to. And you've seen in the last couple of days, Ori Williams has committed to Tennessee. Cohen Eccles has committed to Texas A&M. Karius Kern is committed to Ole Miss. These players that were part of this offensive line that really underperformed for the last 2 years have caught on other SEC places. And you've got to find an adequate offensive line, because I think the way that the skill positions are shaking out, it looks pretty decent on paper, but there's nothing without offensive line. We've learned that. LSU skill positions looked really good on paper this year, and it was a disaster because they couldn't block, couldn't run the ball, and the quarterback got hurt. So you got to find offensive linemen. And to this point, there's just not been a lot of reported traction on an offensive line. And I want to be very careful in defining that. That's reported traction. We don't know everything that's going on over there. We know some stuff because agents speak to some of the national guys and because we've got some sources here, LouisianaSports.net, and we know that there are local guys that cover recruiting exceptionally well that are doing their reporting as well. And, like, we know some things that are going on there. Like, we know Sam Levitt's there. We know what they're doing there. But what we don't have is a ton of concrete information on offensive linemen. Henry Tabansi, offensive tackle from Buffalo, has been reported to visit. Don't have any sort of inclination as to how likely it is that LSU gets a commitment from him. But as we talked about before the portal ever opened, you need 6 offensive linemen. 6. Because right now, your offensive line consists of potentially Braylon Moore, potentially not, and then Weston Davis, who played for you, and then basically nobody with any skins on the wall. Nobody with any significant playing time. Nobody that you can point to and go, that's a guy we got to get a lot of playing time that's going to be a key cog in this offense. That's not to say some of the young offensive linemen can't develop into that. You've got guys that were big-time recruits. But that's the reality is you got Braylon Moore and Weston Davis right now who are in the fold who have played and nobody else that has. You need 6. And there are offensive linemen entering by the hour. And the well is not about to dry up. It's the opposite. The well is deep. So what you've got to do is you've got to get your staff, where you now have in place with Wolford and Craig, that you've brought in from Ole Miss to be your offensive line coaches, and they've got to evaluate, and they've got to get guys in the door. I don't really want to go through another August saying this 4 times a week. This looks pretty good if the offensive line's decent, because that's what we did all August. All August. They got a quarterback back. They got talent at running back. They brought in huge playmakers at wide receiver. Blake Baker's defense is back. But if the offensive line's good enough. And it wasn't. So you got to fix it. And you had to rip it down to the studs to fix it. I could hear a case to be made that LSU's offensive line underperformed solely based on scheme and coaching. I could hear that case. And it would probably be pretty compelling. But again, I feel like it was just those were 2 of the pieces of the pie. There was some youth, some inexperience, some poor play, poor evaluation, poor development. It just didn't work. So you got to get new blood in there. And that's what I'm looking for post Levitt. If they can get Levitt in the can today, and then that's going to ignite a direction for this team. Because keep in mind, like, there are plenty of guys in the portal who are going somewhere for 1 year. Whether they are a sophomore that's highly touted that's got eyes in the NFL, whether they're a junior that has 1 year of eligibility left, like 1 year may be it. And you'd really like to know who your quarterback's going to be for your 1 year. And so if you don't have that information, it makes it harder to fully commit. Because what if you commit to LSU and then Sam Levitt says, I'm going to Miami, and then 2 of the other targets that LSU has choose elsewhere, and now all of a sudden you're sitting there holding your hands and you don't have a quarterback, and somebody has come here to play because they think they got a chance to win big with Lane Kiffin as the coach, and you don't have a quarterback. Like, that's just part of the equation. It may be a small part of the equation. Maybe coming here for the offensive line coach, you certainly want to look at the package financially they can put together for you. There are a lot of pieces to the puzzle as to why a school would be attractive. But one of them could be quarterback. So get the quarterback, get that done, get the ink dry, and then go tell the offensive lineman, here's our direction. This is what we've got on defense. This is what we've got at playmaker. We need you to be the missing piece to this puzzle. Because we know that LSU had some dudes last year around the perimeter on defense, and then it buckled because the offensive line wasn't good enough. We got a new staff, got a new scheme. It's going to be awesome. Look at what we did at Ole Miss. Led the conference in rushing twice. Led the country in rushing once. Come on in. And that's the pitch. They got to get it done. To this point, You got a couple of wideouts. You got a tight end from Pittsburgh. You went and got a stud safety. Picked up a defensive tackle with ACC experience. You're cherry picking. You're filling holes, but you got a lot to fill. And offensive line is the biggest one besides quarterback. Those two dominoes need to start falling quickly. It's not an emergency right now, but I'm just, as I tweeted out, I'm kind of looking like where's that offensive line coming from? Right now, the only reported offensive line visitor we've got at LouisianaSports.net is Henry Tabansi. I'm confident that they will have had more and certainly have had conversation with more. Hopefully those dominoes begin to fall here in Baton Rouge. All right, that's a look at the transfer portal. Got you up to date over there at LouisianaSports.net. We'll step aside, come back, close it out on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing. Find the website, lifetimeroofingla.com. You know, one of the things that was so refreshing in my conversation with the folks over at Lifetime Roofing was their commitment to this community. They are absolutely committed to this community. They do multiple roof giveaways every single year. They've done military giveaways because they know it's important to take care of the people that do business with them. In this part of the world, roofing is a very, very important deal, and it can be very expensive for some people. We understand that. And so they like to give back, and they do. And they also are so proud over at Lifetime Roofing to offer a lifetime workmanship warranty. Lifetime workmanship warranty. You don't see that. They do it at Lifetime Roofing. You're looking for financing? They've got it. 0%. Whether it's a deductible on a claim or whether it's on a retail roof that you buy. You might be trying to sell your house and it's not completely damaged, but it's a little bit old and you just feel like you need a new roof on it to sell that house. If that's the case, contact Lifetime Roofing. They can get your roof done, get that financed for 18 months. Same as cash. These are people that care about the community. These are people that are from the community. These are people that want to help the community. It's Lifetime Roofing. Check them out online, lifetimeroofingla.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Fun show today. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. If you're on YouTube, you want to throw us a like, we appreciate that. Always helps get our content in front of as many people as we possibly can. That's always the goal. Y'all are fiending for portal stuff. I get it. I understand. It's a hectic time. It's a newsworthy time, and if you approach it the right way, it can be a fun time. Also, maybe a bit of a silly time, but it's the time of year that we're in. So we'll have you covered here in LouisianaSports.net as well. Some final thoughts on LSU and South Carolina tonight on the hardwood. I choose to believe LSU is going to win this game. I was impressed by the way that LSU played in College Station against a team that was tough to play against without your starting point guard. And LSU had every chance to win that game late. You clawed back and took the lead late and just couldn't protect the ball well enough to get it done in the end. So you lose that game. South Carolina doesn't offer those kind of challenges as far as their defense. They're not a disruptive defense. They're not a physical defense. They're not a defense that gives teams a lot of problems. I think LSU should be able to get shots and hopefully make shots on this evening. I'd like to play. If LSU had De'Don Thomas tonight, I'd feel really, really confident about a win. But they don't. You got Jalen Reese. So you got to do things a little bit differently. I gave my preview of the game at the top of the show, at the top of the hour here in hour number 2. I think LSU wins the game. I think it's something like 75-70. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of a 2-possession win for LSU, and that would be fine. Just got to find somehow, some way to get this thing on the right side of the ledger because you just don't want to start 0-2 with what the next 5 games bring you in league play. It's just it's a gauntlet that you're going to have to run early. There's a part of the schedule that breaks for you a little bit, and the end is manageable for LSU. But you got to get there, and you don't want the snowball rolling downhill in a negative way. Got to get a win tonight against a South Carolina team that has not beaten a power conference team this year. They are 0-5 in those opportunities. So I'll pick LSU to win. We'll see. 6 o'clock tip-off at the Maravich Center. If you want to go check that out, highly suggest that you do so. If you're not planning on going to see some hoops, want to come play sports trivia, you can do that tonight at Court to Table. I'll be there at 8 o'clock. Hosting sports trivia, you can win gift cards, have something to drink, have some great food, which they have over there at Court to Table, and come hang out. We'll be watching the end of the LSU South Carolina game there at Court to Table. 8 o'clock on Burbank. One order of business left to do here. Just take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Flight by Yingling is the next generation of light beer. Just 95 calories, 2.6 carbs. If you're looking for something light and refreshing on the beer side here in this new year, but you want that delicious flavor of a beer, Yingling's got it. It's the oldest brewery in America. You probably had Yingling's traditional lager. Try Flight. It's the next generation of light beer.
Okay, so we already know the Raiders fired Pete Carroll yesterday.
They did.
Well, an anonymous agent, one of the Raiders players, is saying that nepotism ruined the Raiders season. So his sons, Brennan Carroll and Nate Carroll, were the assistant quarterback coach and offensive line coach. And according to the agent, the Raiders offensive linemen took it upon themselves to schedule their own meetings with quarterback Geno Smith and running back Ashton Jeanty outside of practice in order to understand what was needed within this scheme. Are the Raiders the dumpster fire of the NFL? Take it or leave it.
I would take it.
I'll take
I don't know if it was the assistant quarterback coach and assistant offensive line coach that made them that. I think that may be just part of the issue.
A lot of
but
years.
It's a bad organization. Bad organization. I didn't like the hire when they made it. Look,
Yeah.
I don't mean to suggest that you don't have any life in you when you're 73 years old. That's far from the case.
Yeah.
It is far from, and just not in a hurry to hire a 73, 74, 75-year-old to be my head football coach, because the hours that takes, it's just a lot. It's just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there are head coaches that are running around in their early 30s.
Yeah.
It's just that's where I would lean. So I just didn't think it was an awesome hire. Pete Carroll's full of life at this point. Just don't know that's the guy that I would hire to be the football coach.
And he was the sixth coach since 2021 for the Raiders. That's pretty crazy.
That's not good.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So former Texas wide receiver and Arch Manning roommate Parker Livingstone just pulled the ultimate Cardinal sin as he's committed to play for Oklahoma next season.
Whew.
Players don't care about rivalries anymore. Take it or leave it.
I'll take that.
I'll take it.
That's for sure. And that's something that's always irritated fans. I know for a certain generation, just watching Johnny Damon go from the Red Sox to the Yankees and play on the other side of that rivalry, and see Roger Clemens do the same thing, Red Sox to Yankees, Jacoby Ellsbury, and it's just be like, well, how could you possibly do that? It's like, well, they don't look at it quite like you do, especially when there's a paycheck on the other side of things.
Yep.
So there are probably some that don't like others. I think Cam Jordan leans into that pretty good with the Saints and the Falcons for sure.
Pretty much.
But it's just pretty rare at this point. It's the next paycheck. And my guy Wilson Contreras, Dexter Fowler, World Series champs with the Cubs. Boom. End up in St. Louis. John Lester ended up in St. Louis. It's just the worst, but it is what it is.
I know that bothers you because you hate the Cardinals.
Very much.
You hate every time I wear a Cardinals
Biggest
hat.
dorks in the league.
I
Also
understand.
traded all their good players. Not going to be good again next year. Hate to see it. Really love to see it.
Hey, you're going to sleep good tonight. So it's over 4,000 players currently in the transfer portal, which means there's no way that all of them find a home on a team next season. Is this system model unsustainable? Take it or leave it.
I think so. I take it.
I'll
I
take
just
it.
can't imagine this is the way we're going to do things from here on out, where
No
you
way.
just open the gates in January and have some of the teams competing for a championship,
Got players.
some of the teams trying to hire a coach, players leaving during the playoffs, players jet setting all over the place every January, holding their hand out for cat.
TJ Finley.
There are some pieces of it that are good. I think it's good that Paul Skeens can leave Air Force and find this stage to blossom into what he's become. Certainly Jaden Daniels falls into that as well. I think what Diego Pavia was able to do is
Pavia.
phenomenal, and I think that guys getting paid for huge stages is good. There are some inherent pieces of this that are good.
Yeah.
But the totality of it, if you just step back for a second, is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And I don't know. I'm not smart enough to fix the whole thing. But this week seems a bit absurd. This is not like NFL free agency. There are not
even close.
4,000 people involved in NFL free agency while everyone's still playing. It's just not the same.
And honestly, we always hear the good, like you said, the Jaden Daniels, the Joe Burrows and all that. We never hear about the bad. We never hear about the guy that goes into the portal and nobody picks him up. Phone stops ringing and he's done playing football for the rest of his life. So that's it for take it or leave it.
All right, that's it for Take It or Leave It As He Said. That's a quick show. Here's how it went. If you're interested in checking things out on demand, our full shows are on demand on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. Started the show talking about LSU's newest transfer portal additions. So that's a scouting report, how those guys might fit in. You can check that out at the top of the show. Also at Hunt on LSU. The second segment I did today was just about everybody maybe just pumping the brakes a little bit on how LSU is failing in the transfer portal. It's a bit of a long process, and it's not just a 1 week thing. So I talked about that at 1:15. Sharif talking Saints at 1:30. You can find that at Hunt on Saints. LSU South Carolina hoops preview at the top of hour 2. Denton Day talking college football playoff in hour number 2 as well. Appreciate y'all for being here. Hope to see you at court at the table tonight. Matt's going to drive you home on After Further Review. We're talking Tigers and Portal tomorrow on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about my friends over at Auctioner. Of course, we've always talked to our doctors at Auctioner every other Monday, but now we're telling you about them every single day. I want to talk about potentially starting off the new year with a new you. It's the Kickstart 2026 Wellness Goals. Every year, you look at yourself, say, hey, I'm going to get in shape, and then by the February, you're not going to the gym, right? Well, if you set a goal too lofty, it's going to be difficult to attain. Auctioner Health says the secret is keeping your resolutions doable, not daunting. Smart, small goals. Build some momentum. Stay consistent. Stay specific. Say, hey, I'm going to run a 5K. Build up to that. Hey, I'm going to add a couple pounds of muscle. Make sure you do that. Make your measurable goals, achievable goals, realistic goals, and give yourself a time frame on those goals. You want to check all of this out, you can over at Auctioner. They're online at auctioner.com. Auctioner, a new year,